Tonight on Y News, U.S. President Donald Trump is set to impose new sanctions on Iran after attacks on U.S. bases in Iraq. Forced repatriation of overseas Filipino workers in Iraq to push through despite easing tensions between the United States of America and Iran. President Rodrigo Duterte signs a law granting pay hike for government workers. This year's traslasyon moved faster compared to last year's. And the UNTV News and Rescue Team gets an exclusive access to the NCRPO Sky Patrol in monitoring the security during the traslasyon. Good evening. U.S. President Donald Trump has said Iran appears to be standing down after it fired missiles at air bases housing U.S. forces in Iraq. Trump, in a televised address from the White House, said no U.S. or Iraqi lives were lost in the attacks and the bases suffered only minimal damage. Beverly Saison details this report.
U.S. President Donald Trump said Wednesday his country would be imposing fresh sanctions on Iran, which would remain in place until the country changes its behavior. The announcement comes after Iran struck two military bases used by U.S. troops stationed in Iraq overnight.
As we continue to evaluate options in response to Iranian aggression, the United States will immediately impose additional punishing economic sanctions on the Iranian regime. These powerful sanctions will remain until Iran changes its behavior. We suffered no casualties. All of our soldiers are safe, and only minimal damage was sustained at our military bases. Iran appears to be standing down, which is a good thing for all parties concerned and a very good thing for the world.
Trump said Iran was a leading sponsor of terrorism, something that posed a threat to the civilized world. He also spoke about the killing of top Iranian General Qasem Soleimani in a U.S. drone strike on Friday, saying that the U.S. had eliminated a terrorist who had been behind some of the world's atrocities and who had fueled bloody civil wars in the Middle East.
Soleimani's hands were drenched in both American and Iranian blood. He should have been terminated long ago.
Trump also made reference to the very defective nuclear deal with Iran that expires soon and urged other signatories to abandon it in favor of finding another solution to curb the country's activities. The U.S. has already withdrawn from the deal, known as the Joint Comprehensive Plan of Action, which was agreed under his predecessor Barack Obama, along with the leaders of China, France, Russia, the United Kingdom, and Germany.
And we must all work together toward making a deal with Iran.
The president vowed that Iran would never be allowed to have a nuclear weapon while he was the leader of the U.S. He used the occasion to hail the U.S. economy, saying it was stronger than ever before.
We are independent, and we do not need Middle East oil.
Earlier on Wednesday, Iran's Supreme Leader Ali Hosseini Khamenei said Iran's attack were a slap on the face of the U.S. and said U.S. troops should leave the region. Tehran's foreign minister said Iran took proportionate measures in self-defense and did not seek an escalation. In any case, Speaker Nancy Pelosi plans to hold a vote Thursday to require Trump to cease all military action against Iran within 30 days unless approved by Congress. Beverly Saison, UNTV News and Rescue, USA.
The United States says it is ready to engage without preconditions in serious negotiations with Iran following the country's exchange of hostilities. In a letter to the UN Security Council, U.S. Ambassador to the UN Kelly Craft said the U.S. was ready to negotiate with the goal of preventing further endangerment of international peace and security or escalation by the Iranian regime. The killing of Iranian Commander Qasem Soleimani was justified, the letter argued, under Article 51 of the UN Charter, which requires states to immediately report to the Security Council any measures taken in exercising the right of self-defense. The letter added, the U.S. would take additional action as necessary in the Middle East to protect its personnel and interests. More than 200 no war with Iran marches are being planned across the United States on Thursday Pacific Standard Time. The marches come amid rising tensions between the two countries after the Trump administration killed one of Iran's top military leaders. Groups organizing the marches include Win Without War, Move On, and About Face, among others. In a statement Tuesday, the groups say they want to urge restraint and for the U.S. to avoid yet another unnecessary costly war of choice in the Middle East. Protests will take place at 5 p.m. local time, with marches currently planned in Washington, D.C., Sacramento, California, and Charlotte, North Carolina, to name a few of the marches in major cities. With the de-escalation of the tension between America and Iran, alert levels in Lebanon and Iran have been downgraded. Filipinos in those two countries may stay there, but it is a different story for Filipinos in Iraq. Aiko Miguel tells us why.
Iran and Lebanon are no longer included in the implementation of the mandatory repatriation of OFWs ordered by the Philippine government, according to Labor Secretary Silvestre Bello III. Filipinos in Iran and Lebanon may stay in those countries as the alert levels there have been downgraded. As for Filipinos in Iraq, the Philippine government's advice to travel back to the Philippines and a mandatory repatriation, which is for their safety, still stands. This afternoon, Special Envoy to the Middle East Secretary Roy Cimatu flew to Iraq to lead the evacuation of OFWs there. Secretary Cimatu reiterates the government will not call off the mandatory repatriation of Filipino workers in a country with alert level 4 raised, such as Iraq. The official adds 29 Filipinos are ready to fly home from Iraq, where over 1,000 OFWs have manifested their willingness to be evacuated.
However, I was told that there are some airlines that are still operating, and these are really our contingency plan for their departure out of Baghdad in case that is open. Then they will resort to a land movement out of Baghdad, probably to Amman, Jordan.
Cimatu adds the situation in the Middle East can be considered unpredictable.
The problem is also the time of the attack. So we don't have to wait for this to happen. So we have to start now moving them out habang medyo open pa yung airport, clear pa yung mga kalsada. I would still really suggest that we have to move them out already, even without any conflict pa.
The Special Envoy to the Middle East appeals to Filipinos in Iraq to obey the government's order to evacuate. Filipinos in Iraq are advised to coordinate with the Philippine Embassy for any assistance they may need, even those whose passport is being withheld by their employers. Aiko Miguel, UNTV News and Rescue, Pasay City.
Malacanang welcomes as good news what seems to be a de-escalation of conflict between the USA and Iran. The palace clarifies, however, the evacuation efforts of Filipinos in Iraq will continue unless there is assurance they are not in peril. The government also explains that overseas Filipino workers in Iraq will only be evacuated to another country but will not be repatriated to the Philippines.
Good news for all of us. If the conflict has de-escalated instead of escalating, then that's good news for everyone, especially for our overseas workers. But nevertheless, the move to evacuate and repatriate is still going on.
Some Filipinos in Dubai expressed willingness to abide by the directive of the Philippine government to evacuate should the tension between the U.S. and Iran escalate. For now, they want to tell their relatives in the Philippines they are doing fine and there's nothing to worry about. Bert Cerudo will tell us why.
Though the situation in Dubai remains normal, Filipinos here admit they fear that the emirate may be affected by the tension between the USA and Iran. But the Philippine government has assured immediate assistance is on hand for Filipinos in the Middle East who are ready to be evacuated. In fact, The Philippine embassies in countries and states in the transcontinental region have issued advisories to Filipino communities to be vigilant, prepared, and remain in coordination with the government. Many overseas Filipino workers, including those in Dubai, have expressed their willingness to abide by the directive coming from the Philippine government in view of the repatriation of OFWs from the Middle East.
Kung sakasakali man, tapos may utos ang Pangulong Duterte, isa na ako doon sa magbo-volunteer na uuwi. Kasi ayoko rin naman na mag-alala yung aking mga mahal sa buhay, lalo na para naman yun sa kapakanan ng mga OFW. So, isa na ako doon sa magbo-volunteer na uuwi.
Meron naman siguro po tayo na pwedeng kontakin kung sakali mang emergency na ganyan.
For now, OFWs in Dubai want to bring good news to their loved ones in the Philippines. They are doing fine.
Sa Pilipinas, wag po kayo mag-alala. Okay lang po kami dito.
Okay lang kami rito.
The Filipino community in Dubai continue to monitor the situation in the city, though the tension between America and Iran has slightly eased. Bert Cerudo, UNTV News and Rescue, Dubai.
While many Filipino workers in the Middle East express their willingness to be evacuated due to the U.S.-Iran conflict, it is important to know the different alert levels raised by the concerned government agencies, which aim for the safety of OFWs. Arlene Delgado tells us why.
The order of forced evacuation of Filipinos in Iraq remains in effect, while voluntary repatriation is being enforced in other Middle East countries like Iran, Lebanon, Bahrain, Kuwait, Qatar, Saudi Arabia, and the United Arab Emirates. According to the Department of Foreign Affairs, there are 4 alert levels assigned to destinations, which reflect how they evaluate threats that travelers may face in a country of destination. Alert Level 1 is precautionary phase. It is issued when there are valid signs of internal disturbance, instability, and/or external threat to the host country. Alert Level 2, meanwhile, pertains to a restriction phase, when there are real threats to the life, security, and properties of Filipinos, arising from internal disturbance, instability, and/or external threat. Alert Level 3, or the voluntary repatriation phase, is raised when violent disturbances or external aggression occur in a limited area. The highest level, Alert Level 4, or the evacuation or mandatory repatriation phase, is raised when there is large-scale internal conflict or full-blown external attack in a country. According to Department of Labor and Employment, or DOLE, there are about 2.1 million Filipinos in the Middle East. This number might double because of undocumented Filipinos in the region who remain unaccounted for. Special Envoy to the Middle East, Roy Simato, says they are planning to transport Filipinos from Iraq to Amman, Jordan by land if ever the Baghdad and Erbil airports close down. From there, they will be brought to different transit points such as Dubai and Qatar and take a flight back to Manila. Meanwhile, the Labor Department says alternative centers will be put up in different parts of the Middle East where Filipinos can stay, while their respective routes back to the Philippines or other temporary countries are being planned. The Philippine Embassy in Iraq continues its call to the Filipinos who wish to leave to coordinate to their office right away. According to Philippine Embassy in Iraq Chargé d'Affaires Joe Marsadi, OFWs should secure exit visa and ticket from their employers before leaving. Passports should also be carried and other important documents. Those without any employer or undocumented are advised to go directly to the Philippine Embassy in Iraq, where they can be issued travel documents to settle their repatriation. If the employer refuses the Filipino worker to leave, it is also advised to immediately proceed to the Philippine Embassy. It will be the embassy officials who will directly negotiate with the employer. Filipinos who have Iraqi or Iranian national spouses who prohibit them from leaving are advised to go straight to the Philippine Embassy as well to settle the predicament. For Filipinos in Iraq who would like to seek help, you may call the Philippine Embassy in Iraq through the following hotlines: 0781-606-6822, 0751-616-7838, 0751-876-4665, and 0750-810-5240. They could also send a message through email addresses baghdad.pe@dfa.gov.ph and ambafilbaghdad.secretary1@gmail.com, an official Facebook account of the Philippine Embassy in Iraq. For OFWs in other parts of the Middle East who also wish to be repatriated, you may call the contact numbers of Philippine embassies in your respective countries. Undocumented Filipinos can also seek help through the Labor Department and Overseas Workers Welfare Administration. Harleen Delgado, UNTV News and Rescue.
The tension between the United States of America and Iran began years ago. However, back in 2013, the two countries began to form ties. But that relationship was broken. Dante Amento tells us why.
The relationship between the United States of America and Iran began when Iran and six world powers struck a deal in 2013. Through the Geneva Accord, Iran agreed to restrict its nuclear activities. In return, the U.S. decreased economic sanctions by patronizing Iran's oil products. The deal was considered a significant foreign policy achievement of Barack Obama's presidency, amounting to the most significant agreement between Washington and Tehran since the 1979 Iranian Revolution. But in 2018, U.S. President Donald Trump abandoned the nuclear deal and reinstated economic sanctions. The relations between the U.S. and Iran worsened in 2019 after the U.S. tightened its sanctions, targeting Iran's oil exports. Explosions hit U.S. oil tankers. Washington accused Iran for the attack. And this January 3, Iran was shocked after its top general, Qasem Soleimani, was killed in a U.S. drone strike near Baghdad airport. Soleimani was considered by Iranians as a hero, a martyr, and a brave soldier. He led the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, a branch of the Iranian armed forces that helps protect the Islamic political system from interference of other nations or military protest, for which he spent almost his entire life. He became known when he joined the battlefield during the 1980 to 1988 Iraq-Iran War, which marked the beginning of his military career. He led some other wars, not just protecting Iran but also other countries. He fought along with Iraqi and U.S. troops against the ISIS international terrorist group. Because of his exceptional contributions in military service, he received the highest military award in Iran, the Order of Zulfiqar. Iran Foreign Minister Javad Zarif in tweet said the U.S. act of international terrorism targeting and assassinating Soleimani, the most effective force fighting Daesh, ISIS, and other international terrorist groups. On the other hand, in a Twitter post, U.S. President Donald Trump says that Soleimani was directly and indirectly responsible for the death of millions of people. And the drone strike was a self-defense due to Soleimani's imminent attack on many Americans. Iran retaliated by attacking two military bases occupied by U.S. troops in Iraq. But U.S. President Donald Trump says no one was hurt in those attacks and the U.S. will impose economic sanctions as a retaliatory act. The questions remain, which between the U.S. and Iran violated the UN Charter? Iran disclosed the U.S. should be held liable because it cannot present evidence that Soleimani was a threat to America. And that what it did to the two military bases in Iraq was also in self-defense. But after the airstrikes made by both countries, they disclosed not to go to war. Dante Amento, UNTV News and Rescue.
Welcome back to Y News. We pick up to where Angelo Castro III left off. I am William Theo, and here are the headlines. The Philippine National Police report the traslacion was generally peaceful with no major incidents. The UNTV News and Rescue team provides medical assistance to injured attendees of this year's traslacion. President Rodrigo Duterte signs law granting salary increase for government workers. The National Bureau of Investigation releases its initial autopsy report on Jeneline Villavende's death. And the Technical Working Group of the Department of Transportation recommends to Congress to discuss foreign ownership issue of Uncas. Good evening. The movement of the yearly procession in Quiapo today was apparently faster than those in the previous years. But turmoil erupted as some devotees tried to force their way into a barricaded street under the Quezon Bridge. Garbage are also seen scattered around the area. From Quiapo, Manila, Vincent Arboleda will tell us why live. Yes, Vincent, good evening.
Good evening to you. The ongoing procession here in Quiapo, Manila is expected to end soon. This means the yearly procession will end earlier as expected than the previous years. It took only 5 hours for the procession to reach Palanca Street from Quirino Grandstand. The procession started at past 4 this morning. Police cordoned the front and sides of the procession route from Quirino Grandstand to secure the safety of the devotees. The Andas wall was formed by 8 sectors. Each sector was headed by a police colonel or a lieutenant colonel. As it passed the Ayala Bridge, the National Capital Region Police Office, headed by Police Brigadier General Debold Sinas, turned over control of the Andas to the devotees and proceeded with the planned route. Meanwhile, some attendees expressed their discontent as they were prevented to pass through the Quezon Bridge in Quiapo. Police officers cordoned off the Quezon Bridge, which is one of the areas specified as blocked or closed as part of the traffic plan.
Nasubukan niya puntahan?
Oo, lahat. Sarado.
Ano sabi ng mga pulis?
Eh, bawal daw dumaan.
Eh, saan daw pwede dumaan?
Wala nga eh.
Sarado. Sabihin ko simbahan, hindi ko pagdating ko, sarado. Sarado eh.
A commotion erupted when some devotees tried to force their way on the barricaded street just beside the Quezon Bridge, but they failed. Some devotees became unruly and pushed the portalets to the middle of the police barricade. The windshield of the NCRPO pickup truck was also broken due to the commotion. Despite this, authorities remained composed and dispersed the devotees. Trash also littered the streets around the Quezon Bridge in Quiapo, Manila. Instead of throwing it to the trash bins, some devotees left their garbage everywhere. William, earlier we were able to witness personally how the devotees became unruly earlier past 6 this evening. They tried to continue to force their way through the barricaded area here below the Quiapo Bridge, with some hurling water bottles and some even pushed several portalets just to force their way through the police officers. A lot were injured, both from the devotees and even several police officers. And with several minutes and even lasting more than an hour of struggle, the police and authorities finally gave way for the devotees to pass through the area to stop additional injuries from both sides of the party. And that's the latest live here in the Quirino area, particularly in Quezon Bridge. Back to you, William.
Thank you, Vincent Arboleda, reporting live from Quiapo, Manila. At least 40 attendees in today's procession in Quiapo, Manila received first aid treatment from the UNTV News and Rescue Team. Mirasol Abogadil will tell us why.
At least 40 devotees sustained minor injuries during today's traslasyon. The UNTV News and Rescue Team is among the response teams ready to attend to the injured and felt unwell. Due to intense heat this morning, 3 people felt dizziness and exhaustion. One had a panic attack, while others suffered knee pain, sprain, and swelling. 30 devotees suffered wounds or abrasion, mostly on the feet. A total of 41 persons were given first aid by the UNTV News and Rescue Team stationed at the Quezon Bridge in Quiapo, Manila City. In case of a wound, there are simple ways to treat the injury.
Mas maganda na linisin muna yung sugat, or kung meron silang nakikitang labis na pagdurugo, so yung panyo, tuwalya na meron sila, maaaring yun muna ang itakip nila pansamantala doon sa sugat habang papunta sila doon sa medical station na malapit sa kanila.
It is best to seek medical treatment immediately in the nearest medical station to avoid infection and other complications.
Ang isang importante kasi doon is malinis natin ng maayos yung sugat, ma-assess ng mga rescuers kung gaano ba siyang kalalim, kung kailangan ba siyang tahiin, or kailangan ba siya na dalhin sa ospital for further assessment.
The UNTV News and Rescue Team remains stationed at the Quezon Bridge tonight to assist those in need of first aid treatment. Mirasol Abogadil, UNTV News and Rescue.
Despite reported injuries and petty crimes, the Philippine National Police considers Traslacion 2020 as orderly and peaceful. And during the procession, the NCRPO and the UNTV News and Rescue team became the eye in the sky to give a picture of what was happening on the ground. Leah Ilagan reports why.
This year's Traslacion is the first time the National Capital Region Police Office, or NCRPO, used Sky Patrol to monitor the situation in the entire route of the annual procession. Together with the UNTV News and Rescue team, NCRPO personnel on board the PNP helicopter gave a bird's-eye view of the Quiapo area and all roads used by devotees during the entire procession.
Mas malawak po ang nakukuhang coverage ng pagmamonitor ngayon kumpara po sa ground. Pati po ma'am yung daloy ng prosesyon na monitor din po natin dito.
The Philippine National Police leadership commends the maximum tolerance displayed by the 13,000 NCRPO personnel deployed to monitor and maintain the security of the event. The PNP explained that several changes were made in the security plan for this year's Traslacion. For instance, more than 2,000 policemen were deployed to secure the andas to create a so-called andas wall to prevent devotees from blocking the movement of the andas. To stave off a stampede, a barbed wire fence was placed on the Ayala Bridge. No major incidents during the procession were recorded. However, 200 minor injuries, petty crimes, and a commotion between several devotees and police officers occurred.
Orderly pong natahak hanggang sa may Ayala Bridge ang prosesyon. At nung nagkaroon na din po ng pagpapalitan, naging maayos din naman po nung papasok na po sa may bandang Arlegui. Nakiusap po kasi sir, ma'am, ang pamunuan ng Quiapo Church at ang mga deboto na pagpapasok na po sa Arlegui, bandang Quiapo po, ibibigay na po ng PNP ang kontrol ng andas.
Overall, the PNP said the event was generally peaceful. Leah Ilagan, UNTV News and Rescue, Taguig City.
There are some who criticize the security measures implemented by the Philippine National Police during today's Traslacion. Apparently, the PNP made several adjustments and changes in their security plan. But Malacanang depends what the police want and what the police are after is the security and safety of the devotees.
Well, the PNP certainly has to undertake measures that will provide for the safety of those devotees. It may be strict, but the goal is to protect them from any harm.
Meanwhile, the technical working group of the Department of Transportation will bring up the issue of ownership of Uncas before the Philippine Congress. This after discovering that one of the shareholders of Uncas is a foreign national. Joanna now tells us why.
Amid the ongoing controversy surrounding the operation of motorcycle taxis in the country, the Department of Transportation Technical Working Group has found out that DBD YOC Incorporated, which operates motorcycle ride-hailing service Uncas, is owned by a Singaporean national. According to the OTR TWG consultant Alberto Swansea, they have discovered through the documents filed by Uncas with the Securities and Exchange Commission that a Singaporean national named Angeline Tam is said to be the owner of 99.98% of the company's shares. Based on several articles, Angeline Tam is the Chief Executive Officer and founder of Uncas. Tam supposedly used to work with transport network company Grab but eventually resigned from her position. But Swansea and law expert attorney George Erwin Garcia have explained earlier in UNTV program Huntahang Legal that under the Philippine law, foreigners are prohibited to operate transport businesses here in the Philippines.
Singapore yan. Transportasyon yung pinasok ninyo.
Hindi po pwede.
Hindi po pwede. No? Meron tayong batas na dahil
64 po ba yung
you're well aware of that, Tony George.
Yes, sir.
No?
Yes, sir.
Sa transportasyon, tatlo hinihingi. Unang-una is citizenship.
Tama yun.
Financial capability,
Correct, yes.
saka yung public need. Yun.
Kasi tatandaan natin, life ang involved dito.
Yes, oo.
Life kasi yan. Baya, foreign citizen, mawala na lang bigla sa ating bansa. Paano? Yun yung purpose kung bakit.
Swansea reiterates they will raise the issue of ownership in the Congress. But Uncas Chief Transport Advocate George Royeca argues that he owns 60% of the company's shares. He adds the remaining 40% of the shares are divided among 5 other stakeholders, including TAM.
Matter, but then in compliance with the nationality requirement, but then we know definitely pag naging batas po yan, kailangan po talaga yun. So that has been rectified already.
The DOTR-TWG reiterates it is up to Uncas as to how are they going to prove to Congress their ownership of the company. Joanna, UNTV News and Rescue, Quezon City.
In other news, President Rodrigo Duterte has signed into law a measure granting wage increase for government workers. Duterte signed the bill into law a few weeks after he certified it as urgent in December 2019. Under the new law, the salary adjustment will be given in 4 tranches starting January 2020 until 2023. Upon full implementation, basic salaries of government employees will increase by a weighted average of 23.24% by 2023. The program will cover around 1.4 million state workers, including public school teachers and nurses. The president last year vowed to increase the salary of public school teachers.
I'm sure this law will benefit those hardworking men and women in the government, including the most neglected sector in the bureaucracy. And I refer to the teachers and the nurses.
The family of Filipino worker Jeneline Villavende, who died in Kuwait, continues to cry for justice. They are confident justice will be served. Meanwhile, the National Bureau of Investigation, or NBI, will soon release the result of their autopsy on the Villavende's remains. Janice Inhente reports why.
The National Bureau of Investigation, or NBI, has begun conducting an autopsy on the remains of Jeneline Villavende in Nurala, South Cotabato. The 26-year-old Villavende was purportedly killed by her employers in Kuwait in December last year.
The victim sustained several or multiple injuries in the body, the front, and then at the back. And then some organs, vital organs are missing. So especially the brain, the heart. So yung naiwan lang na organs are the liver, the spleen, the kidney, merong kidney, at saka yung lungs. And then yung sa likod ng victim, there are a lot of infected wounds at the back portion of the body.
Dr. Ricardo Rodaje, NBI's medical legal head, further says the final results of their autopsy will be released soon.
Ang final result will be released as soon as possible after the laboratory examinations na ma-complete.
Jeneline's body arrived at General Santos Airport this morning, welcomed by relatives and friends. From the airport, it was transported to Nurala, the Filipino workers' hometown. The Villavende family, together with their supporters, cry for nothing but justice for Jeneline.
Gusto ko na mangyari sa employer ni Jeneline, kung ano ang nangyari sa kay Jeneline, yan man ang gagawin sa kanya.
The result of the autopsy conducted by the Kuwaiti government states that Jeneline died from heart and respiration failure due to shock and multiple injuries. The Villavendes are positive justice will be served.
Siyempre naniniwala ako kasi inaayos man nila, tumutulong din sila para mabigyan ng hustisya yung kamatayan ni Jeneline.
The Villavende family are also thankful for the assistance received from various government agencies.
Labor Secretary Silvestre Bello III and Norala Mayor Clement Fidoc are expected to personally visit Janeline's family tomorrow. Janice Enhente, UNTV, News and Rescue, Philippines.
Meanwhile, U.S. Senator Dick Durbin once again makes an appeal to the Philippine government to release Senator Laila de Lima or ensure a quick and credible trial on her cases. Durbin is one of the 3 American senators pushing for the U.S. entry ban on Philippine government officials involved in Senator de Lima's detention. In retaliation, the Duterte administration has banned the 3 lawmakers from entering the Philippines. The government has also warned of requiring visa upon entry of Americans in the country should the U.S. implement the entry ban on officials involved in detaining the lady senator.
The Duterte regime should stop threatening the travel of Filipino Americans and so many others who travel between our nations and instead assure a quick and credible trial for Senator de Lima, or simply do the right thing and release her.
In other news, Chinese researchers say they have identified a new virus behind an illness that has infected dozens of people across Asia, setting off fears in a region that was struck by a deadly pandemic 17 years ago. Researchers have initially identified the new virus, a coronavirus, as the pathogen behind a mysterious pneumonia-like illness that has sickened 59 people in the city of Wuhan and caused a panic in the central Chinese region. They detected this virus in 15 of the people who fell ill, the report said. There is no evidence that the new virus is readily spread by humans, which would make it particularly dangerous, and it has not tied to any deaths. But health officials in China and elsewhere are watching it carefully to ensure that the outbreak does not develop into something more severe. And for the news abroad, here's Kath Dumaraos reporting live from Bangkok, Thailand. Kath, good evening.
Good evening, William. The death toll in the ongoing bushfires in Australia continues to rise. Meanwhile, Iran's aviation authority said it would not hand over to Americans the recovered black boxes of a Boeing 737 that crashed on Wednesday. This report explains why. Iran has said it will not hand over black box flight recorders recovered from a plane that crashed with 176 people on board to manufacturer Boeing or to the U.S. The Ukrainian Boeing 737-800 went down just minutes after taking off from Tehran's airport, leaving no survivors. Under global aviation rules, Iran has the right to lead the investigation. But manufacturers are typically involved, and experts say few countries are capable of analyzing black boxes. In comments published by Iran's conservative Mehr news agency, the head of Iran's civil aviation organization, Ali Abedzadeh, said they will conduct the investigation that may include the Ukrainians. Abedzadeh said it was not yet clear which country would analyze the black boxes. Boeing said it was ready to assist in any way needed, while Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau said his country expected to have a role in the investigation and had offered technical assistance. The Ukraine International Airlines flight PS752 to Kyiv had 176 people on board when it crashed in Iran on Wednesday. The majority of passengers were from Iran and Canada. In Australia, Australian authorities confirmed Wednesday the death of a firefighter as a result of bushfires that have ravaged the country since September, bringing the death toll to 26. Matt Kavanagh, 43, died while on duty after a Friday crash between 2 vehicles which police linked to the bushfires. This is the third death in Victoria due to the fires, which have already caused 20 fatalities in New South Wales and 3 more in South Australia. Prime Minister Scott Morrison, during a visit to Kangaroo Island, said weather conditions were expected to worsen in the coming days. Meanwhile, Australian authorities began culling at least 10,000 wild camels Wednesday, whose overwhelming population has endangered communities in the desert region as they try to access water amid one of the worst droughts in the country's history. Aboriginal areas have been unable to manage the scale and number of camels that congregate in dry conditions, according to a statement from the Department for Environment and Water of South Australia. Some 10,000 wild camels approach water sources used by the area's Aboriginal population and damage their infrastructure, endangering families and communities as well as competing with cattle. According to tracking portal CamelScan, there are about 1.2 million wild camels in Australia and their population doubles every 9 years. Kat Dumaraos, UNTV News and Rescue.
Australian comedian Celeste Barber raises $30 million for fire services in Australia. Through social media, she has urged over 1 million people to donate and help put an end to the ravaging fires. Maria Latoza reports.
Almost 3,000 firefighters are battling the bushfires in Australia. The wildfires have already damaged millions of hectares of lands in various parts of the country. The worst hit state is New South Wales. Various groups and personalities have extended their assistance and support to Australia. One of them is the Australian comedian and writer Celeste Barber, who has 6.6 million followers on Instagram. In just a few days, Barber was able to raise around $30 million through a fundraising campaign she launched through social media. Around 1.3 million people around the world have extended their assistance after her public appeal. Meanwhile, Australian authorities have released a new warning and evacuation notice because of worse temperatures seen to fan the bushfires. In Victoria, the disaster notice has been extended to 2 days and residents are advised to evacuate to safe places. In New South Wales, residents are warned of worse weather conditions on Friday. For now, many places are still experiencing power and line communication problems, while others already lack water supply. Larger cities are affected with poor air quality, and the bushfire smoke has already reached as far as South America. Maria Latoza, UNTV News and Rescue, Australia.
The former president of Nissan, Carlos Ghosn, on Wednesday defended his innocence in Beirut in his first public appearance since his escape from Japan on a private plane. Speaking at a highly anticipated news conference, Ghosn described himself as a hostage in the country with a choice between dying there or running. The former Nissan boss said he was subjected to relentless, shameless, baseless media attacks orchestrated by Japanese prosecutors and Nissan executives. In a statement released after the press conference, prosecutors in Japan said Ghosn's allegations completely ignore his own conduct and his one-sided criticism of the Japanese criminal justice system is totally unacceptable. Ghosn was first arrested in November 2018 and had been out on bail since 25th of April 2019 with restrictions on his movement and a ban on leaving the country. Prince Harry and Meghan, Duchess of Sussex, said they would step back from the British royal family and split their time between Britain and North America. In their announcement made on the couple's Instagram account, the Duke and Duchess said they had decided to carve out a progressive new role within the institution and work to become financially independent. Here's Jovic Bermas to tell us why.
Britain's Duke and Duchess of Sussex, better known as Crown Prince Charles' younger son Harry and his wife Meghan, have decided to step back as senior members of the royal family. Now the parents of an 8-month-old boy Archie, the couple announced on Wednesday that they will continue to fulfill their royal obligations vis-a-vis Queen Elizabeth, Harry's grandmother, the British Commonwealth and the foundations in which they are involved, but they will not be spending all their time in the British Isles. The couple said they plan to split their time between the UK and North America. They went on to say in their statement on their Instagram account that they would work to become financially independent and intend to launch a new charitable entity. Harry and Meghan communicated their plans shortly after returning from a lengthy trip to Canada. For the year and a half since their wedding at Windsor Castle, the 35-year-old Harry and former US actress Meghan Markle, 38, have been embroiled in controversy regarding their relationship with the rest of the royal family and subjected to intense media pressure. Last October, Meghan launched legal proceedings against the Mail on Sunday and its parent company for publishing a private letter and having undertaken an alleged campaign of fake news against her. Jovic Bermas, UNTV News and Rescue, London, United Kingdom.
And those are the news from the other parts of the globe. Back to you, William.
Thank you, Kath Dumaraos, reporting live from Bangkok, Thailand. And those are the reasons behind the news this January 9, 2019. On behalf of Angelo Castro III, I am William Theo, and before we close, we will recap with today's significant sound bites. Because we need to know, we will always ask why. Good evening.
Iran appears to be standing down, which is a good thing for all parties concerned and a very good thing for the world. And we must all work together toward making a deal with Iran.
The problem is also the time of the attack. So we don't have to wait for this to happen. So we have to start now moving them out habang medyo open pa yung airport, clear pa yung mga kalsada. I would still really suggest that we have to move them out already even without any conflict pa.
Orderly pong natahak hanggang sa may Ayala Bridge ang prosesyon. At nung nagkaroon na din po ng pagpapalitan, naging maayos din naman po nung papasok na po sa may bandang Arlegui.
The victim sustained several or multiple injuries in the body, the front, and then at the back. Some organs, vital organs are missing. So, especially the brain, the heart. So, yung naiwan lang na organs are the liver, the spleen, the kidney, merong kidney, at saka yung lungs. And then yung sa likod ng victim, there are a lot of infected wounds at the back portion of the body.
The Duterte regime should stop threatening the travel of Filipino Americans and so many others who travel between our nations and instead assure a quick and credible trial for Senator de Lima, or simply do the right thing and release her.